All right, so less and less people are reading, so I thought I will make a video reading um, my latest post. Um, I'm gonna add some commentary. I'm not just gonna read it, uh, but let's get started. Okay, so how Dilbert, creator, trolled a Nobel laureate. With the passing of Scott Adams, creator of Dilbert, I thought I would write my favorite interaction of his, which was with Nobel laureate Paul Krugman. Actually, let me increase. I love this interaction not only because it highlights one of the topics I write extensively about, which is how highly intelligent or seemingly intelligent people fall for the most obvious tricks, but also because it's the epitome of what Adams was at his core, a very persuasive satirist. It also shows something fundamental about the nature of our reality, which is that two people can see exactly the same information and arrive at very different Ju- conclusions. Just like in the Matrix, some people may see an attractive woman in a red dress, other people will see an obvious honeypot. We all live in epistemological bubbles, but some people's bubbles prevent them from seeing a reality that is very obvious and easy to verify. You'll see what I mean soon. First, let's explore the two realities, then you decide which one is more likely. I contend this is not some kumbaya situation where the truth lies in the middle and everyone is kinda quote unquote right. So, hopefully, this explains the motivation. Of course, you don't know what I'm talking about yet, but we have to see the two sides of, like, there's always another side to a story. So let's see if I can persuade you that this is something interesting. Krugman's world. Paul Krugman is an economist and distinguished professor, as well as columnist and Nobel Prize laureate. He is la creme de la creme of intellectual academic heights. So, of course, many intelligent people rely on his insights in order to make sense of the world, especially when it comes to economics. In 2020, Krugman made a comment on Twitter about the importance of debates for uneducated voters. Quote, a quick thought about Dilbert turning on Donald Trump. For people who follow politics seriously, debates can seem nonsensical. We know who these guys are, and you shouldn't choose a president based on the ability to deliver sound bites. But there are still some people who have managed to remain oblivious, people who rely on news sources that sanitize Trump's rantings, longtime Republicans in denial about what their party has become. For some of them, Tuesday was revelatory. Debates, in other words, remove some of the filters, external and internal, that keep people from seeing the obvious. And that's bad for Trump. Paul Krugman. So, okay, so that's the quote. That's the main quote that we're going to tackle in this article. Now, this comment did not happen in a vacuum. It happened because of a comment Adams made in episode 1140 of Real Coffee with Scott Adams. I tell you who won the debate and why. I'm just gonna come out and say it. The president lost my vote last night. In my mind, the president had to do one thing to win the election: disavow white supremacy if asked. That's it. This, of course, is itself in reference to the first presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. After Adams' comment, the corporate news cycle and Democrat social media went wild with it, and Krugman wasn't the only one rejoicing in a Republican finally seeing the light about Trump. So, with the full context, we can understand Krugman's point of view. He is not saying Adams is stupid, just uninformed about Trump. Obviously, a cartoonist capable of creating a successful and witty strip such as Dilbert must be at least somewhat intelligent. But it just so happened that Adams' view of the political landscape is filtered by news sources that paint Trump in a favorable light. Fox News. Therefore, Adams' view is not accurate. Krugman is much more informed and his news sources are not biased. Therefore, he has an accurate view of the political landscape. For Krugman and his informed friends, Trump's flaws are as clear as day, and they don't need a debate to confirm what they already know. But for uninformed voters such as Adams, debates such as these are a perfect opportunity for them to realize who Trump really is. So hopefully this is a um, valid summary of what's happening, uh, because it's a stack. There was a presidential debate. Scott Adams made a comment, and then Paul Krugman made a comment about that comment. Now, try as I might to be charitable to Krugman's view, I don't think there's any reading in which this doesn't show contempt. He's quite literally separating voters into us, the elite informed intelligentsia, and them, the uninformed plebeians. We'll soon find out how this strategy played out. So I don't think I don't think if you read this tweet, there's anything here that is like not charitable. That's pretty much what's happening. And for most people, that's the end of the story. That's all there is to know. Krugman made a valid point. But let's see. Adam's world. The first thing to understand is that actually that was not the full quote. I'm not actually going to read the whole thing. Let's just watch it. Um,
I feel terrible after watching the debate. Did anybody have that reaction? And, you know, some of it's personal. I'm going to come right out and say it. The president lost my vote last night. President lost my vote last night. Now, that doesn't mean he can't get it back. It doesn't mean that Biden would be a good president. I don't think he would be. I think he'd be a disaster. But here's my thing. And I get what you're going to argue. So before you jump in with the comments, you should trust that I will say your argument for you. All right? So I'm not ignoring the argument. I will say it for you. Here's my problem. In my mind, President Trump needed to do one thing to win the election. Just one thing. He had one thing he needed to do. And it wasn't, make Biden go crazy. It wasn't make strong points. It wasn't, be accurate. It wasn't make a good case for coronavirus. It wasn't any of those. He had one thing he needed to do. Disavow white supremacy if asked. That's it. Now, it would have been nice if he had gone at the Fine People hoax to decry it as a hoax. He mumbled something under his breath when Chris Wallace asked him the question about, would you disavow white supremacists and the militia? Now, here's the part you're going to tell me.
okay, that's it. I think that's the main part of the important part of the video. The salient missing context is that second paragraph where Adams mentioned the Fine People hoax. Let's see. Now, it would have been nice if he had gone at the Fine People hoax to decry it as a hoax. He mumbled something under his breath when Chris Wallace asked him the question about would you disavow white supremacists and the militia? Okay, so what is that? Is it important? First, The Fine People hoax is a meta subject. Adams talked extensively about it, and I could write an entire article about it, but in the interest of brevity, it's like a red pill. Adams called it the Fine People hoax funnel, because people who investigate it are funneled from the mainstream bubble, Krugman's world, to an alternative bubble, Adams' world. It's a funnel because, to use another analogy, like the Wizard of Oz, once you pay attention to the man behind the curtain, there's no going back. So it seems like there's something important here that is missing from our original point of view. In fact, Adams himself showed the two realities by comparing the results of Google. Actually, let's do this. All right. With those of DuckDuckGo. Okay. So we're searching file people host. It is no surprise to anyone paying attention that Google's employees live in an ideological bubble and they filter results they don't like. I mean, I could say a lot about that, but so let's. Um, the first result in DuckDuckGo is findpeoplehoax.net. Debunk. What is the find people hoax? Okay, so now let's see. Google. It's completely different. There is no link to the site that was created specifically to debunk that hoax. Interesting, isn't it? Something that the Twitter files clearly showed. That's why the site findpeoplehoax.net is buried by Google, even though it was created expressly to explain the find people hoax, and why this blog post is likely to be silently suppressed as well. Now, I'm not going to bias you and go to this site. If you want to go and read it, you can do that. Reality couldn't get more ironic than that, except maybe if UK's surveillance system was named Big Brother. But you don't have to trust any site. You can find out the unedited full video and transcript of the conference about Charlottesville on August 15 of 2017, where Trump explicitly said, quote, "And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally." End of quote. I could provide a link where you can find it. You can find the complete video. You can there's a transcript on the New York Times, right? This is not hard to find. It's a fact. This is what he said, and you can look at the full context, but the full context is even more explicit that he's not talking about them. That is just a fact. Corporate media took this statement to mean that he was talking about neo-Nazis, when he explicitly said he was not talking about neo-Nazis. It could not be any clearer. It takes 5 minutes of research from anyone to find out what Trump actually said, and yet somehow professional reporters couldn't find it. The only logical conclusion is that these reporters intentionally lied about what Donald Trump said. That is why Adams calls it a hoax, because it is. That is the core of the onion, which we can now unpeel back. Once anyone finds out about this hoax, it becomes impossible not to see the corporate media in a new light, quite literally like a red pill. It forces people to consider that if they lied about this, then perhaps they lied about other things, maybe a lot of things, maybe even most. And it's not a mistake, because to this day, 2026, people still keep repeating this lie. And actually, Scott Adams This is just one of the hoaxes that he talks about. There's many, but all you need is one. Once you find out that this is what he actually said, and you compare it with what corporate media reported that he said, like, your eyes have to be opened. That's at least that's what Adam thinks. I think so as well, but you'll be the judge. So what Adams was talking about. So that's what Adams was talking about. It would have been very easy for Trump to take this opportunity to dismantle this hoax in real time on live TV for the entire nation, and he didn't take it. Quote, it was a layup. It was free money sitting on the fucking table, and he left it there. End of quote. Adams explained in that very same video that he felt, quote, personally abused by this situation. So it stands to reason that perhaps he was going to do something about it, since clearly Trump wasn't going to. We are still nowhere near seeing the full picture. So this is the start. Now we're starting to see the point of view of Scott Adams, and there's a lot of missing context that Paul Krugman didn't even begin to consider. All right, Adams' underworld. So far, we've seen Adams' view of the facts, but not his psyche or motivation for those comments. Adams is not just a cartoonist, he's also a trained hypnotist. In his own words, this training helped him understand just how manipulable humans are. He wrote a book about persuasion, in other words, manipulation. Win bigly, a persuasion in a world where facts don't matter. If the title of the aforementioned book doesn't give it away, Adams is not a big proponent of truth or ethics. However, I'm not going to attempt to write a full psychological profile in order to understand a tweet. We can look at examples of everyday life to understand where Adams is coming from. By the way, that is not to say that he's a liar. Uh, he just takes like a pragmatic view where truth is not like paramount. If a teenage daughter says, "Yeah, Dad, this trip has been so fun," shall we take this as a true statement? Anybody who has dealt with teenagers understands sarcasm, which includes all adults, because we've been we've all been teenagers. Therefore, all adults understand the psyche of a satirist, because satirists take sarcasm to an extreme in order to find deeper truths about the nature of our world. Is it possible that a satirist wasn't being 100% honest when he said, quote, Trump lost my vote? That was a rhetorical question, by the way. We don't need to wonder, because with the benefit of hindsight, we can see what happened literally the same day, hours after Krugman and most of the corporate media made a big deal about Trump losing, quote unquote, losing Adams' vote. So this is a thread, a series of tweets. Today I learned that agreeing with Democrats and saying I won't vote for Trump makes them hate me extra and threaten me. So I'll be voting for Trump. That's what Scott Adams said. Some other guy, Tom, says, boom, trap closed. Scott, too easy. I mean, yes, I guess there's different ways in which this could be interpreted, but to me, it's really, really obvious what happened. I mean, this happened like literally hours, if not minutes, after Krugman made his tweet. There's no hypothetical if Adam was toying with Democrats, it's a fact that he was. and most of his fans saw it a mile away. I certainly did. And I'm not really like a fan. First of all, Adams doesn't vote. In fact, he has written and talked about the reasons why he doesn't vote. This is what he said in Joe Rogan's episode. Actually, we could just um, look at it.
It's weird. There was a space for this
Hmm.
of somebody who didn't have a team.
Yes.
And it's part of the reason I don't vote. I don't join a party.
You didn't vote at all?
No, it
Isn't it ironic?
it would bias me.
Oh, I see.
As soon as you vote, you join a team.
But you like a Klingon in this world? You just roaming through the streets, and then people make the rules, and you just abide by them. How's that work?
It's
You're a
funny.
non-participant in our democracy, Scott Adams.
Well,
Are you secretly Canadian?
yeah, I'm a Californian, so I didn't think it mattered that much who I voted for. But I also think that staying unbiased is important. So I'm just not a joiner.
But what about other things? Like you could always.
All right, so that's pretty clear. Actually, when was this? Um, 2016. Adam consciously did not vote in order to remain objective, in his own words. So, how on earth did Trump lose the vote of a conscientious objector of voting? He didn't. Adam was never going to vote for Trump in the first place. So, why did he say that Trump lost his vote? It's almost like he was trolling. That's another rhetorical question, by the way. Adam was 100% trolling. Nowadays, in 2026, it's a little bit difficult to find sources of Adams' view on voting, but back in 2020, I remember I found immediately an article he wrote, "Who's afraid of Donald Trump?" For new readers, I have already disavowed Donald Trump for being scary, and by that I mean he scares my fellow citizens, which I find unacceptable. My policy views don't line up with any of the candidates' positions, including Trump's, and I don't vote and I'm not a member of a political party. I try to avoid identifying with any political label because doing so will make me biased and less credible. That's pretty clear, isn't it? If you want to find other instances of Adams saying variations of the same thing on Google, you'll have to use a very specific query. Not only Adams, not only did Adams say he did not vote, he said he disavowed Trump. That is not to say that Adams was anti-Trump. He had a nuanced view, and if you are interested in it, go and read his entire series of posts. The Trump Master Persuader. it's it's actually there's many articles that he wrote or blog posts. Some of these are really short, but still, I'm not gonna try to summarize it, and it's not relevant. The only relevant fact is that he was not going to vote for Trump. I didn't expect Krugman to know all of Adams' corpus, but I did expect him to do a simple Google search. Adams, being a master on persuasion and understanding how humans tick, knew a lot of people were not going to do even the most basic research. Most humans, when they find information that conforms to their pre-established belief, simply accept it without question. I think that is not controversial to say. Krugman, being a predictable member of the human race, did precisely what most humans do. I mean, he just took what Scott Adams said at face value that Trump lost his vote. No digging deeper necessary. Adams' true target. This situation was funny to Adams, it was hilarious to Adams' followers, it was priceless to me, but to a satirist, mockery is not the end goal. It's the means. Like, yeah, sure, this is funny, but is he just doing it for the shits and giggles. The true target of Adams were Krugman's followers, who clicked the link and wondered, what is the Fine People hoax? I already knew, but a lot of people did not. That day, a lot of people were funneled from Krugman's world into Adams' world, never to come back. And therein lies the true genius of Adams. He abused Krugman's gullibility in order to spread his message. If Trump wasn't going to debunk the fine people hoax, Adams was going to take matters into his own hands, and because the end justifies the means, trolling wasn't off the table. I bet Krugman never even realized what happened, even after Adams tweeted too easy. I mean, to me, it's really obvious, right? He says, "I'm not gonna vote for Trump in moment A." In moment B, Krugman and a lot of people say, like, look, another Republican um, finally seeing the light. And even though Scott Adams is not Republican, he didn't endorse Trump. He was not going to vote for Trump. Moment C, Scott Adams retracts and says, uh, actually, I changed my mind. I will be voting for Trump. Like, it's easy to retract something that you were never going to do. I mean, obviously. So, Adams' legacy. I realized after the fact that I referred to Scott Adams in the present tense, but that's because to me, he's not really gone. I watched a few episodes of Real Coffee with Scott Adams, but not a lot. I didn't read most of his posts, I did not watch Joe Rogan's episode, and I haven't read any of his books. So to me, there's still a lot of quote new content to consume. Now, I hinted in the introduction of one of the reasons I'm writing about this episode is because I find it hilarious how easy it is to trick supposedly highly intelligent people, but the deeper reason is that both Krugman and Adams saw the same debate. However, their understanding of reality is completely different. Because Krugman is not black-pilled as Adams, he is completely unable to see Adams' reality. To Krugman and corporate media, it's not even conceivable that a mere cartoonist like Adams could play them like a violin. But my contention is that's precisely what happened. For an even clearer example of Adams' persuasion, aka trolling, you can look at episode 1995, Get In Here. This episode became viral because on an excerpt in which he clearly unequivocally admits defeat, mm, should be unequivocally admits defeat. However, if you watch the entire episode, he even says that he's only doing that in order for people to stay and listen to the rest of what he has to say, and then flips it over and states that his analysis was right. And obviously, he explains why. And I mean, you can try to narrow it down like, yes, you were right for the wrong reasons, but actually, he makes it clear that's not what he's saying, but something like that. But it's not just that. At the beginning of the episode, he claims this might be his most important stream, which could change history. It does seem he tried to make the episode viral in order to get people to listen about Tucker Carlson's episode, in which he debunked a lot of myths about Richard Nixon and how the CIA has been running the country throughout the years. In Adams' own words, it might be one of the greatest things I've seen in television in all genres. Genres. Adams was red-pilled by Carlson and wanted his audience to have the same experience. Nah, Adam could not possibly have planned all that, could he? Let's watch a little bit of this.
But if you missed it, I'll try as best I can to give you the summary. but you really have to see it in context. It honestly is one of the greatest things I've ever seen on television. Maybe I oversold it, but definitely listen to it. So here's the basic idea.
Actually, I'm not gonna go into that. If you are interested, go look at it. I mean, it is interesting. Even if you don't like Carlson, just take a look. See what part of what he's saying is not true. The fact is, Scott Adams is going to keep persuading people long after he's gone. So, yeah, that's the article. Hopefully, I have substantiated that this is an interesting interaction, and I think it's very clear that Krugman was completely oblivious of what Scott Adams was actually doing, and the core of the matter is the fine people hoax, which, by the way, Biden used as a central part of his campaign, and it was mentioned in that first debate. And Adams was right. Trump could have done more to debunk it right there. But if you didn't know about this, check it out. Read what Trump actually said, watch the video, and you make up your mind and see if Adams was right. Well, uh, that's it. Um, give a like if you find any of these interesting. Thanks.